Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Saga. Dave Cottingham here with Hannah Burr. Good evening. How are you, Hannah?
I am well, and how are you?
Doing fantastic. Doing fantastic. Lots of
Great.
Star Wars craziness going on in the news right now. I think, lots of rumors with what's coming. We haven't had anything fully, confirmed necessarily, but exciting times in Star Wars. One thing that's kind of relevant, I feel like, to this show, Hannah, not sure if you heard the news, but starting in spring of next year, Dark Horse is going to be publishing Star Wars books again. Have you heard that?
No.
No. Now, Dark Horse was the publisher for Star Wars for, I think it was like 20 plus years, 23 or 24 years. Obviously, the contract expired, and when Lucasfilm was bought out by Marvel or Disney, and then which owned Marvel, so then the line officially got transferred over to Marvel. And for a short period, IDW has been publishing comics, and they refer to them as all age comics. You know, the Star Wars Adventures line and the Star Wars Adventures High Republic. But now IDW is they're moving away from IDW, and now they're going to go back to Dark Horse. So I think March of next year, I think we'll start getting some new books from Dark Horse. Again, I think it's all ages. So I don't know if it's going to be the continuation of the Star Wars Adventure lines or anything like that, or all new. I did read the article that said that they are primarily going to focus on the High Republic to start.
Mm.
So it looks
Very
like we're going to get more of that. Yep, looks like we're going to get more of that.
Awesome.
As the High Republic enters into the next phase of books. I think wave 3 starts beginning of the year and then eventually gets to the wave 2. But anyway, so more books coming. People that were fans of Dark Horse, I mean, you know, at this point, it's really just it's just a label, you know. But I'm liking the Marvel line of comics, to be honest. So that's really the ones we're focusing on here. But we'll see. We'll see what comes out.
We will. It'll be great either way.
It will be great
for Star Wars. So
yeah, as long as the stories are there, it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
So on this episode, we are going to continue diving into what we began a while ago, which is the Star Wars comic line. And we are up to volume 6 now, called Out Among the Stars. There's Artoo on the cover there. So this is issues 33 through 37 of Star Wars, and then on the back end of it they tagged the annual for Star Wars annual number 3. So we'll go into a deep dive of those. Of course, this is written by Jason Aaron still, great artwork by Salvador LaRocca. The paperback came out in December of 2017, so it's been out for a while. So again, go get this and read this if you're going to continue this line. So Hannah, we just got out of a couple weeks ago. We did basically the storyline in between volumes 5 and 6, which was Screaming Citadel, which was a crossover event between Star Wars and Dr. Aphra. So now we're coming out of that, and I think you brilliantly described this book as you get into overall, what did you think?
It's a filler episode.
Okay, it's a filler.
And that's it. Bye, guys. Have a great
Go check out the filler. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think there are definitely a couple of nuggets, definitely a couple of moments you're like, oh, that's really cool, or that's a funny interaction. And holy smokes, it's that character. But in general, it's a lot of vignettes.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't anything that's necessarily like crucial for you to know. So it's definitely, you know, in TV shows, when you get to that episode that no one really remembers, it's a filler episode.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts about it?
Well, when you said that at first, and I was thinking a little bit more about it, it's funny because it reminded me kind of, I don't know if anybody out there that's listening or watching watches The Walking Dead. Do you watch The Walking Dead?
I don't. That's one I still need to get into.
Okay, so The Walking Dead. What's interesting about that show is it's pretty good, but they have such a large cast, right? Because there's a lot of survivors, and the comic was centered around all these big group of survivors and cast members. So the problem with it is, you don't have the budget necessarily in a TV show to have every cast member in every episode. Mm-hmm. So what they do is they split them off into different, missions and stuff like that. So you only have two or three characters in this episode. And then the next episode, you catch up with these characters. And then the next episode, you catch up with these characters. And then eventually you get them all back together, right, towards the end of the season. Mm-hmm. That's what this book felt like, right? Because you had, basically what was issue 33. You had issue 33 about Luke and Leia. You had issue 34 about Sana and Lando. Then you had issue 35 with Han and Chewie. Issue 36 was Artoo. And then issue 37 was Sergeant Creel, right? So
yeah.
You basically had a collection of different stories around certain characters to kind of get us almost caught up to where we are now, and a little bit of a reminder of where we came from. That's what I got out of it, really. And so it is a filler. This is the first time, I almost hate to say it, but this is almost the first time where I feel like you can kind of skip this book and you may not miss as much going into, volume 7. And I will tell you, Hannah, like this was, these last issues were where I was when I was starting to read them. So I have not read beyond this. So I can't tell you whether or not it's relevant or not yet.
Maybe it will be.
It could be. I think it could be. Now, I will tell you before I get to yours, but I will say that out of all these stories, I probably will say my favorite part, which I really love seeing, was in the first issue with Luke and Leia. I loved the part where so basically what happens is they're stranded on this deserted island for about 3 weeks. And my favorite part, honestly, was them lying on the beach and having that conversation about where their homeworlds. And Granny, remember, this is after Alderaan has been destroyed. So Leia doesn't have a home. And then Luke, how he's talking about, yes, it's fantastic, right? Because we never saw anything like that in the movies, right? The best thing we got, to me, that's why in Return of the Jedi, when he finally reveals, like, you're my sister, like that is one of my favorite scenes of all time. And I feel like we get that conversation a little bit here, and how he's describing Tatooine is, even though his home is there, it doesn't feel like his home anymore. And she doesn't have a home. I don't know. I really love that scene.
Oh, I mean, there's a reason why. For those of you listening, I screenshotted that scene on my phone while reading the comic, and I was just showing it to Dave right now. I mean, it's powerful, and I think it helps solidify the fact that there really isn't a romance going on between them.
Yes.
It's a deeper bond. It's like we're supposed to be close, not close in that way, but it's because I think the thing that we keep forget. I don't know about you, but I keep forgetting that Luke and Leia are the same age.
Exact same age, yeah. And
Luke seems immature. Like, don't get me wrong, girls mature faster than boys, yada yada yada. But Leia just has this like complete and utter maturity about her that you just are like, holy crap, she's still a teenager.
Yeah.
She's still young.
Right.
And she's doing what she's doing is insane. Then you have Luke, who, it's a whiny teen, very fitting for his age. So I think this is the first time we really see Leia just kind of be vulnerable. And she feels safe being vulnerable.
Yep.
And really showing that young, inexperienced side of her. So I agree that is probably my favorite part of this volume as well.
Yeah. And I love that they still, even though Star Wars it tends to break the laws of physics, obviously, right? I still love the fact that they tried to interject, real life physics, where she's staring at the stars and you can see Alderaan still.
Yeah.
Because the light, hasn't reached that star where they're at, and she can still see it, which is pretty awesome. I really love that fact of it, even though you would think if a planet gets destroyed in Star Wars that you wouldn't be able to see it at all. But I love that part of it still.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was pretty good. And then I did mention that the next story involves Sana and are technically our first introduction to Lando, right? In this, I was actually a little surprised about that because I had to think back and like, have we talked about Lando yet in this series? I don't think we have.
I don't think we have either. And it was kind of like a pleasant surprise to be like, but then I'm also thinking, well, of course, Sana and Lando know each other.
Right.
Like, of course they do.
Of course.
It makes sense. Because they ran in similar circles. So that was kind of cool to get a little more backstory to Lando.
Yep.
Without the context of Han there.
Yes, which obviously he knows Han. I mean, but he has not met Leia yet, and he has not met Luke yet. So that was pretty interesting to see that. And
well, the first time he meets them is in Empire Strikes Back. So right. At least we're still consistent.
Yep. We're getting there. We're getting there with this.
Yes.
And then you have, the book about Han and Chewie and smuggling, what they're smuggling. Again, that one was a little like that. I really was like, okay.
That one, I felt like I've heard that story before. It's just, hijinks ensues.
Yes. And then if you remember, I don't know if we mentioned this because it was the end of the book, but in volume 4, at the end of volume 4, which was the last flight of the Harbinger, our friend Threepio was captured actually by the Empire.
Yes.
And so this book about Artoo is his attempts to rescue his friend, which was pretty cool.
I'm not going to lie. That is my other, I would say closely behind the Luke and Leia story is a story because I love how Star Wars takes droids and just gives them personalities and makes them like what Artoo was able to do. I'm like,
I know
the Empire should be gunning down this droid, not going after Luke and Leia. Jeez.
Agreed. And he said something there about getting like his weapons upgraded or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. So he's a killer droid. I mean, he's almost as bad as, who is it? Is it B2 or something like that, right?
I think it is B2.
The assassin droid that hangs around Afra. I mean, he did some pretty good damage. He did some pretty good damage. And then the last book, we are brought back into the presence of Sergeant Creel, who we saw at the end of volume 4 as like before, and where he's the lightsaber wielding stormtrooper, and we get a little more about him and get a little more about his group, and again, nothing with the rebels, but he has his own little mission in this and interaction with Vader. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was okay. Again, I think he is gonna show up later, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah. No, I totally think he will. I just found it, I don't know, to me it was just kind of interesting that, in the conversations, it's heavily hinted that Vader is training this guy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the saber he's wielding, the kyber crystal hasn't bled yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's going to be a moment later on, but I find that a little weird.
I think I would tend to lean towards the fact that if I don't feel like he's capable of wielding the dark side necessarily.
I got you.
I think he's able to wield a lightsaber because he's just skilled in combat.
Okay, so he's not really.
But until he starts like wielding the powers of like fear and hatred and suffering and anger, I think that's the only way you can bend a kyber to the will of the dark side, right? And so I don't think he's quite there yet. If ever he's, I mean, I think he even mentions like, I'm not trying to be a Sith or something like that.
It's something like that. I think.
Vader says something like, you'll never be a Sith, or I don't know, something like that.
Try all you might, Sergeant Creel. You will never be Sith.
Yes.
I'm not asking to be. Yep.
So I think that's,
there you go.
Yeah. So I feel like someone has to, and again, I'm not totally not, I don't know. There could be a reference of that out there somewhere or not, but I just, I feel like a dark side user, when they're succumbing to the dark side, is when they try to make a crystal bleed to their will. Yeah.
It's just interesting that
it is. No, it totally is. Mm-hmm. I mean, very similar to, I guess you could somewhat make the case for, say, similar to Grievous, right? Because
that's a very good point.
He trained by Dooku,
yet he doesn't yield.
But he never. But it's really trained with lightsaber skills, never with the dark side.
Interesting.
So yeah. Just another point too, because I kept referencing volume 4, even though we're on volume 6. So volume 5, I can't remember, Hannah, if we mentioned this on here, but volume 5 was a book called Yoda's War, and we will get into that later, because those books actually consist of they're actually into another graphic novel that is called The Journals of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we'll get into all that at some point, which will contain, because that whole book is Luke reading out of the journals and learning more about Yoda. So we'll talk about that down the road a little bit as we dive into a lot of Obi-Wan stuff as the series comes next year. Yes. So overall, Hannah, what's your rating of this book?
I mean, for me, it's honestly a 2. Like,
okay.
Sure, there are a lot of great moments in it, but if I'm judging it, if I'm comparing it to other books that we've read in other volumes, I'm not going to put it up there with them.
Yeah.
Unless we keep reading and all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, that was actually important information. Well, okay.
That's true.
Okay, I guess. What about you?
Probably because of the fact you just said that it could be better later, because that would probably bump it up to a 3. So I'm probably with you at a 2, because I don't know if I'd give it a 3 now and then bump it. I still don't think it would make it to a 4.
No.
Yeah. So I'd probably give it a 2. Yeah, I'd give it a 2. It's cool, but not important. We usually talk about the impact on the overall saga from these stories, but I think we both say it's not really that impactful as far as what happens to our characters in these. So,
Yeah, agreed.
okay. Um, yeah, so that's Out Among the Stars. I do want to mention, I do want to get used to mentioning some comments from you guys on our
Mm-hmm.
previous shows. Our last episode of or I'll say two episodes ago, because we did release a couple over the course of a couple weeks. We did Light of the Jedi, which was the first novel of the High Republic era.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we got some comments here saying, from Thrawn Addict, great review and discussion as always. Looking forward to the next book review from the High Republic. I agree with Hannah that you discover so much more on what the Force can do, where the Skywalker saga only scratches the surface. So good point there. And then our previous episode we released, which was the one leading into this, was Screaming Citadel. Joe, Jar Jar, thanks for doing these. I keep being behind in terms of the comics. Got to keep up. You're helping a lot. That's the whole point. Love doing that. And then, of course, let's see. Thrawn Addict says, great review. I do agree. Very much a side story that's not necessarily a must read, but good to see Aphra and Luke interact. Also, in the canon book, Heir to the Empire, Heir to the Jedi, which came out about 6 years ago, which is set before Empire Strikes Back, Luke learns how to use the Force a little bit in that. He does. Heir to the Jedi, which was one of the early canon books that came out. I think, I want to say it was like the third or fourth book that came out. So it is older. I did listen to that book. Wouldn't mind doing that one too at some point, Hannah, because it's interesting. I think you would like it. I feel like it turned some people off because the book is basically narrated by Luke. So it's from his perspective. So the words are I did this, I'm doing
Right.
this, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, he's doing what he's doing, I feel like, in this comic series, which is he's trying to find ways to learn more about the Force and discover what he's supposed to do. And it's been a long time, so I don't remember the whole story. I had to refresh my memory, but I did like it hearing from that perspective. The best, what would have made it even better, which I was hoping that was going to happen, was I wish it was narrated by Mark Hamill. It would have just made sense, right?
He would have done it too.
I know. I don't know. I don't know why he wouldn't have. But that would have made it so much better.
That would have been awesome.
Awesome. Anyway, all right. Thanks, everybody. Keep the comments coming and keep letting us know, too, if you have a story or something you want us to dive into. I will kind of give you a little bit of a preview. Hannah and I are obviously still continuing this comic series, Star Wars. We're going to continue High Republic. We're both in the middle of Into the Dark right now, so that will come soon. Then we're going to dive into Rising Storm, which is the Kevin Scott novel for High Republic. We're talking about doing some Aphra, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, of course, look for in probably early December, we're going to talk about the War of the Bounty Hunters comic series that just wrapped up as we get ready for the Book of Boba Fett hitting Disney Plus December 29th. So
that's going to be great.
So much Star Wars coming, Hannah.
So much Star Wars, so much love, so much awesome.
So much awesome. Yes. As always, go to youtube.com/Inside the Force and subscribe there, or get on any of the podcast feeds and subscribe there, because all of these episodes are dropped on there as well. But why not look and see us, right? Like Hannah just held up a picture so you could see what she's holding and sharing, right? Thanks, Hannah, as always.
Thank you. Truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody. See you next time. May the force be with you.